testosterone cream. Testosterone cream is a perfectly valid form of testosterone replacement therapy. For every 100 people who say they love the cream, there's one guy who basically says you should inject, the cream is useless. I think this misconception comes from people who have had a hard time with gels. And it's true, people have a hard time with gels like androgel in comparison to the cream. They have a hard time absorbing it. Sometimes they'll even end up lower than when they started. So their levels on testosterone replacement with the gel puts their total testosterone lower than where they started. Some people will have, end up on 200 nanograms per deciliter. It's like it doesn't work for them. So I think people misattribute the inefficacy of the gels to the creams, because I've seen so many reports, anecdotal reports of people who just love the cream. Of course, there are benefits and drawbacks to the cream, and there are benefits and drawbacks to the injectable. Obviously, the benefit, one of the most common benefits, and one you already know, is the ease of use of the cream, because you wipe off the cream and you apply it and you go on with your day. So obviously that's really convenient. But we're going to go into deep dive on everything with the cream, everything. You'll have to bear with me. I have chemo brain fog. I'm on chemo right now for my autoimmune encephalitis, which also causes cognitive issues. And I've done multiple takes already. So bear with me. I will touch on every single topic. It might just be a little bit, sporadic and not super rigid in how I approach each subject. But I will touch on everything. So please stick around for everything, because some of the important bits might actually end up being at the end as I remember them. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Testosterone cream is compounded. You won't find it at your local pharmacy on their shelves. So compounded means, a compounded medication is generally a medication that is compounded or made specifically tailored to you. So if it's not widely available on pharmacy shelves, like 1 milligram of clonazepam, you can get 0.68 milligrams of clonazepam compounded at your compounding pharmacy. So you can have this sent into a local compounding pharmacy by your doctor to have it compounded, or more often, you can register with an online hormone replacement therapy clinic, HRT clinic or TRT clinic, and they will send in a prescription to a remote compounding pharmacy who will create this formulation for you and ship it to your door. A remote compounding pharmacy is just a large manufacturing compounding facility that creates a variety of medications, including injectable testosterone, tailored to your needs, and then they ship it to your door. And they do it for people nationwide, not just in your town. So a large facility that ships nationwide. In this example, I got mine from Empower, which is a very common remote compounding pharmacy. So again, gels suck, generally speaking, and people misattribute that to the cream. Your cream will come from a compounding pharmacy, not from your pharmacy, like a Rite Aid or whatever. I want to get into the TopiClick container. This is called TopiClick. Some people will find it's in a pump. I think that's more in the UK. I haven't seen it in the United States that it comes in a pump. If you're getting it from the United States from these major compounding pharmacies, maybe from your local ones is different, but from these compounding pharmacies that are remote, you'll have it in the TopiClick container, which I would prefer, honestly. Let's get into dosages real quick. Generally speaking, the more common dosages are 100 milligrams of testosterone per milliliter or 200 milligrams of testosterone per milliliter. You can't compare cream to injections. So with 100 milligrams of testosterone in cream, it doesn't equal 100 milligrams of injectable testosterone, because when you're using the cream, you're not going to be absorbing the full 100 milligrams. In fact, you're going to be absorbing a significantly less amount of that. So you can't compare the dosage of cream to injectables. I've seen people be like, oh, you're in a full-blown cycle with the cream. It's like, actually, no, you need more of the cream in milligrams of testosterone than injections, because there's such a decrease of absorption. This doesn't mean it's ineffective. It just means you need more milligrams, and that's why they have it at such a higher dosage. So, like, for example, some people will use 200 milligrams a day, and that looks like a massive cycle. If you go through the week, what is that, 1,400 milligrams a week? It sounds like you're on a cycle or whatever. So this contains 100 milligrams. Mine contains 100 milligrams per milliliter. You usually see 10% in front of that. So you'll see 10% 100 milligrams per milliliter testosterone cream, or you'll see 20% 200 milligrams per milliliter testosterone cream. Ignore the percentage. I'm not even going to talk about it because it's so goddamn useless. So just look at your bottle and see that it's 100 milligrams, or what you're prescribed, it's 100 milligrams per milliliter or 200 milligrams per milliliter. Common dosages would be 100 milligrams per milliliter or 200 milligrams per milliliter testosterone cream, 2 clicks in the morning, 2 clicks in the evening. Now, I would start with a lower dosage because, number one, people can get their testosterone blasted to the stratosphere with cream, and it's amazing. You can almost get to cycle levels with a moderate amount of cream. But this is highly variable. Some people need more, some people need less. So I would start on the low end. So I recommend this with injections as well. Start on the low end so you can see your tolerability, and you can adjust from there. And one of the great things about the cream is it has such a short half-life. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, but it has such a short half-life of 16 hours that if you need to make an adjustment, like it's really not working for you, you're having side effects right away, or you need to bail for whatever reason, it's got such a short half-life that you can make adjustments and they'll take effect really fast, or you can bail and then your testosterone will drop really, really fast. So you can make adjustments on the fly pretty quick. One thing I would say is there are changes that happen with testosterone cream that don't happen right away. Some things do, like you'll notice an increase in energy and things like this right away. But some things like permanent mood changes, alleviation of anxiety and depression, muscular growth, structural changes in your face, which is usually a result of redistribution of fat, facial fat, will come with time. So there are some things that are more immediate and some things that take time. And it's the same thing with injections. However, you can adjust your dosage a little bit more easily with this. With injections, it's usually a 1 week half-life, so it takes 4 weeks to reach steady state. With this, it's got 16-hour half-life, so that means it reaches steady state in about 3 days. So you can make an adjustment and get labs in 3 days. It's super easy. So that's kind of one of the big pros as far as the half-life goes. Bear with me, I'm going to have to take a second to gather my thoughts because I forgot where I was going. Let's talk about the TRT container itself. So it says on here, again, it's 100 milligrams per milliliter. It says for each quarter turn, it dispenses 0.25 milliliters of cream. This means you multiply 0.25 by the total milligrams per milliliter in the bottle. So, for example, in this bottle, it's 100 milligrams per milliliter, so you multiply 0.25 by 100 milligrams for every quarter click, for every quarter turn. So every time I turn this, it's going to make a click, and it's going to dispense 0.25 of the total milligrams per milliliter in this bottle. So in this case, it would be 25 milligrams, 50 milligrams, 75 milligrams, 100 milligrams. In a 200 milligram per milliliter vial, you'll do the exact same thing. You'll multiply 0.25 by 200, and that's for every quarter turn. And it'll make a click, so you don't have to do it yourself. It'll make a click for a quarter turn, and that's why they say clicks. So you'll do a click, which is 0.25 of 200, so that's 50, 100, 150, 200. And then 4 clicks equals 1 whole ml. People will discuss the dosages of cream all over the place. They're just, people talk in different languages on Reddit, for example. They'll say, I'm on 100 milligrams. I'm like, are you on 100 milligrams per milliliter, or are you taking 100 milligrams in the day? Or some people will say, I'm on 2 clicks in the morning and 2 clicks in the evening. That means nothing if I don't know if you're using 100 milligrams per milliliter, 200 milligrams per milliliter, or 300 milligrams per milliliter. I don't know how much testosterone cream you're actually using. So you have to be specific. You have to say, I'm using 100 milligrams per milliliter, 2 clicks in the morning, 2 clicks in the evening. Then I know you're using 100 milligrams per day, 50 milligrams in the morning, 50 milligrams in the evening. So I hope that makes sense. Let's get into how to use this container. Again, this is called the TRT container. And we're going to go into the benefits and drawbacks in a moment. This is a TRT container. This is how it's going to arrive to you. It's going to be in a box. It'll have kind of warnings and all that kind of stuff, as well as how to apply it according to your doctor's instructions. The first thing you'll do is you'll take the lid off. Okay? You'll see already there's some cream there. I brought a bunch of toilet paper to wipe it off so I don't accidentally end up on cycle by just putting a bunch of cream on myself. But when I first got this, I was confused because there was a hole there, but it was black. There's nothing in there. There's no cream. And I turned it a click, nothing came out. Turned another click, nothing came out. I was confused, so I started prying at the cap here. Don't do that. The thing is, the reason why you're not seeing the white there, sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. It might have settled during transit, is that it's not primed. So you have to prime it. So you click, 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 click until you see cream come out. That means it's primed. So once you see that the cream has come out at the top, that means it's primed and you're ready to use the Toppy Click as prescribed. You may notice that after you use a click and you wipe it off and you put it on yourself, you'll notice right now there's actually a little bit starting to creep out. Ignore that. You'll use that amount tomorrow. So just put the lid on, or later in the day. So just put the lid back on. Don't wait for it to come out. That defeats the whole purpose of it being so quick to applicate. So just leave it alone, put the lid on, and you'll apply that later in the day or the next day. So that's how you use the Toppy Click container. So if you already used 2 clicks in the morning and 2 clicks in the evening, you would go 1, 2. It's not a whole lot of cream, but you take your 2 fingers or 3 fingers, you take it off, and you apply it. Now, let's talk about application locations and why one might be more beneficial for you than the other. Most commonly, you're going to see people recommend to apply it to the scrotum. If you apply it to the scrotum, I recommend at least trying to get your scrotum shaved like twice a week. I saw one doctor say he used a razor, like a regular facial razor, to shave his scrotum. I tried that and immediately nicked myself, and I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. Like, it's the loosest skin on your body, so you have to like pinch it like a balloon and try to shave. It's just a nightmare. So I used clippers, electric clippers or whatever they're called. I'm forgetting it off the top of my head. Electric clippers with the guard on it, a very short guard. And then I put it on the closed position, and then I just gently went over my skin. Sometimes I wasn't even touching my skin, and I was just shaving it down so my hairs were shorter. So that increases the consistency of absorption, as well as probably increases the efficacy of absorption a little bit. Does it matter a huge amount? No, not really. So that's just an optional thing you can do if you want to put the time and effort into it, is to shave your scrotum so you get a little bit more consistency there. It's possible, it's more consistent, and there's no real data out there. It's just, logically makes a little bit of sense because it gets caught on your hair. Okay, why the scrotum? Why not anywhere else? We're going to ignore transference. You've probably heard it a million times that if you apply it somewhere and then you hug your wife or your kid, you're going to put them through pre-puberty, or you're going to transition your wife into a male. We're not going to talk about that for now because that's such an obvious one. Don't get this cream on your kid because you're going to put them through premature puberty. So wait for it to fully dry. Wait the 2 to 4 hours to fully dry before you ever make contact with somebody where you've applied the cream. Same thing with swimming. Don't go swimming or take a shower 2 to 4 hours after you've applied the cream. If it's like you're going to the beach after you've applied the cream and it was a sudden thing, just, who cares? Don't worry about it. Just, you'll wash off some of the cream. Some of it will have been absorbed, and you'll just pick it up the next day. It doesn't matter. Some life things just get in the way. Here's the thing with applying it to the scrotum. We're 13 minutes in, but this is the big thing about applying it to the scrotum, is that you have a high density of 5-alpha reductase enzymes in the scrotum. And 5-alpha reductase enzymes metabolize testosterone into one of the 2 main metabolites of testosterone, which is DHT, dihydrotestosterone. The second major metabolite being estradiol, the most potent form of the 3 estrogens. Why is it important that so much is converted into DHT, sometimes double the upper limit normal of dihydrotestosterone on labs, sometimes even more? This is primarily the biggest benefit of this is libido and sex drive. I have had autoimmune encephalitis, still have it, getting into remission. As you can see, I can talk fairly well. My concentration is a little iffy, but one of the big sucky things about the autoimmune encephalitis is it's almost made me asexual. I don't have a good erection quality. If I get an erection, it's hard to get an erection. It's hard to get aroused. It's hard to feel horny, which kind of sucks. I've tried Cialis, and it was I had bad side effects with Cialis, so I couldn't use it, unfortunately. So one of the biggest benefits is when I applied 1 click, 25 milligrams of this cream, just to test it out on my scrotum, within 2 hours, which is when it peaks. 2 hours is when it peaks, and then it starts. Sorry about the zoom in. 2 hours is when it peaks, and then it starts to drop off across the day, which is why sometimes they recommend 2 times daily, so you keep your levels as stable as possible. After about 2 to 4 hours, I was able to just look at my penis and make it become erect. No stimulation, no pornography, nothing. I could just look at it and I get a rock hard erection. And I haven't been able to do that since I was like 15. So it was wizardry. And I haven't gotten like a solid erection in 3 years. You know, and I'll still have to figure out how to do that. I wish they prescribed just DHT cream instead of having to go to like a steroid website or something like that. But that was a huge benefit. So erection, quality, libido, horniness, all of that is going to be associated with high levels of DHT, which is amazing. Another big pro of DHT is it improves cognition and focus. And so it's kind of like when I went on cycle. You know, I went on a high dose of testosterone, 500 milligrams per week. And I think I severely miscalculated earlier. I forget what I was saying. But 500 milligrams per week increased DHT a significant amount. I had a high degree of like, wow, like focus. I felt alert. I felt this healthy amount of aggression. Some people may have an unhealthy amount of aggression depending on how they, you know, their personality type or whatever. But it felt like the smoothest, cleanest cup of coffee I've ever had. And it was the same way with this. The problem with this and with some individuals is that I'm more sensitive and my brain's more sensitive now. So instead of feeling like amazing, I could tell it was the same feeling I had on cycle, except for this time it caused me more anxiety than it did 100% focus. So with some individuals, they may have a higher level of anxiety, but I would definitely try the scrotum first, because if you have that feeling of focus and drive, and you'll get a better energy in the gym and at work and things like that, the high levels of conversion to DHT is a huge pro when you're applying it to the scrotum. So those are the two major benefits: is one, libido, horniness, erection quality, and then secondly, the clean coffee, best cup of coffee feeling you've ever had effect. The downside to that is some people find that it's difficult to sleep. So they can apply it once in the morning or like a few clicks in the morning. But the downside is, again, it's a 16-hour half-life. So by the time the next morning comes around, your levels can be pretty damn low if you don't apply it twice a day. But you can check, and if you tolerate a high dose in the morning, you may still actually have pretty decent levels in the following morning. So it just involves a little bit of dialing in. What are the downsides of the high DHT conversion? One is increased male pattern baldness susceptibility. So DHT binds to hair follicle receptors and can cause miniaturization and can cause acceleration of hair loss, which I have a predisposition to. It's slowly happening. I might get a hair transplant at some point, but I think my crown and the widow's peak are both going to go. So I'm not sure I'm going to have enough donor hair for a double transplant. You guys have seen my microneedling video. It is highly effective, but I have stopped that not only because I'm on chemo, but because I was very lazy about it because I was feeling so bad from the autoimmune encephalitis. So increases susceptibility to hair loss. The second major consequence of this is it will increase your propensity to developing benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is enlargement of the prostate, which is why I would suggest you get your PSA measured on your every 6-month labs to make sure your PSA isn't increasing, which would suggest some growth on your prostate or your prostate itself. So if it does start elevating, you can get a digital rectal exam by your urologist and determine if you can maintain this therapy on your scrotum with such high levels of DHT. One other pro of having high levels of DHT is they'll have virilizing effects. So this means you'll have increased possibility of beard growth, increased chest hair. Downside is you'll probably have a significant increase of ass hair. And you also have restructuring of the face and deepening of the voice. So, that's a downside for women if they use steroids or they use cream that's this strong, is they would have deepening of the voice, enlarging of the clitoris, things like this, virilizing side effects. But these effects can be positive in men because they can have redistribution of fat in the face that makes them look like they have a stronger jawline. They look like they have less of a baby face and things like that. So there are pros and cons to having the high DHT conversion. If for whatever reason you do not tolerate the stimulation of the DHT, or you don't like, and it's interrupting your sleep, or you don't like the idea of losing your hair and you're prone to it, and you don't like the idea of having an enlarged prostate, or you already have one and you don't want to make it worse, you can apply the cream in other areas. But again, there's an 8-fold increase in absorption when you apply it to the scrotum. And so when you apply it to other areas, you're probably going to need a higher dosage. What areas and I'll get into the when you should draw labs in a moment. But what areas can you apply this to that aren't in the scrotum? And don't do it on your penis. You're not applying it to your penis. Your scrotum is your ball sack. Just want to make that clear. You can apply it to, I would say the major parts would be your shoulders and just underneath your arms. You're going to have a very minimal, unless you're super hairy, you're going to have a very minimal amount of hair there. So you can, and it's kind of thinner skin. So you can do your shoulders and just under your arms on your lat. And those are the two best spots I can think of. So in the morning, if you do 2 clicks, you could do one on the shoulder and then one on the lat. And the next day you can alternate to the other side. Alternation is not super necessary, but you can if you want to, I guess. I don't know why you would, honestly. Let me gather my thoughts here for a second again. Okay, so you'll need a higher dosage. Here's one big pro, and I don't know if I've touched on this already because it's been 21 minutes, is that it has such a short half-life. It has 16-hour half-life. So the adjustment period you make after you've been on it for a while, you're gonna have to let your ball shut down, right? So if you have 300 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone as a natural, you got to let your balls shut down before you can get accurate labs. So you got to wait about 4 or 5 weeks, kind of like somebody who's injecting testosterone. You got to wait 4 or 5 weeks before grabbing labs to get an accurate reading because your testosterone naturally will be shut down so you don't have an artificially raised testosterone level, and you can adjust your dosage from there. If you're switching from testosterone injections to cream, it's going to take 4 to 5 weeks for your testosterone, take 4 weeks usually for your testosterone cypionate, for example, to clear your system and not give you that falsely elevated level of testosterone when you're using the cream. So either way, if you're just starting or you're switching from testosterone replacement, you generally have to wait 4 weeks to grab labs and get an accurate measurement. Now, once you have done that, once you are shut down or once the testosterone cypionate has cleared your system, you can get labs in 3 days anytime you make an adjustment because the half-life is 16 hours. So it's like 3.66 days before you reach steady state. So if you make an adjustment in dosage, you go up by an extra 2 clicks, or you change from 100 milligrams per milliliter to 200 milligrams per milliliter, and you adjust your dosage, you can wait 3 days and grab labs. It's that simple. On testosterone cypionate, you'd have to wait 4 weeks. So that's a huge pro as far as the half-life goes. So the half-life is a double-edged sword, and I'll talk about that in a moment as well. So when should you grab labs? Your peak is going to be 2 hours after application. I may have mentioned that earlier. It's going to be 2 hours after application. So 2 to 4, actually. So I would grab your labs 2 to 4 hours after application. The pharmacokinetic data says 2 hours, so I would say 2 hours. Some people say 2 to 4, so you could grab it at 3. But pharmacokinetic data technically says 2. So you can grab your labs 2 hours after your application, and that'll be your peak. Your trough would be, if you did, click in the morning, click in the evening, or whatever, your trough would be in the morning again, at the same time you do your application, before you do your application. So it's kind of similar in the way with injections. So you're getting your labs drawn the morning you are going to apply, but before you apply, and that'll be your trough level. And you can also get that the next day. So you get your peak. You could even get it done the same day if you want to wait in the car. So you can get your peak or your trough by measuring before you apply, and then after you apply, you can wait 2 hours and get your labs done. And you'll have your peak. So you could even do it the same day if you wanted to, if you had nothing to do and you just sit in your car, watch a movie for 2 hours. But you do it one day and then do it the next draw the next day, and you have your peak and your trough. And so if your peak isn't that high and your trough is really low, then you can raise your dosage so both go up a little bit, right? So you're not waking up with super low testosterone. So I briefly mentioned that the 16-hour half-life is a double-edged sword, and it is. One of the things, inconvenient things about it is you probably, not always, but probably will need to do your application in the morning and then one application at night. Again, do it 2 hours before you shower. So let it soak in for 2 hours before you shower at nighttime. So you have to keep that in mind. So that's slightly inconvenient. It almost takes away the convenience of applicating a cream in comparison to just an injection that you can do twice a week, or in my case, I do it every other day. Where was I going with that? I'm so sorry. Fuck. I totally forgot where I was going with that. We're 25 minutes in, so I can't make a retake of this. We're doing trough and peak labs, double-edged sword. Oh, okay, so here's the double-edged sword. Let's take example from me on testosterone cypionate, injecting every other day, and my testosterone is 830, 750 at 830. I've gotten that in 2 separate labs, both LCMS, which is the most accurate form of getting your labs drawn. So if it says total testosterone LCMS, it's more accurate than the immunoassay IA. It's 830 right now, all the time. That means I have, if I were able to work out, which I can't right now, unfortunately, if I were able to work out, I'd have sustained levels of high protein synthesis all the time, which means that if I worked out at the gym, I'd have continual protein synthesis elevated all the time, in comparison to a cream. Sorry, you can tell my brain's shutting down. A cream where you're going to have like these maybe stable levels during the day, and then overnight it's going to drop because you're going to apply at 6 p.m. and then you're going to wake up at 7 p.m. That's 12 hours. It's almost a full half-life. So you're going to have a drop-off overnight. And for example, I recently got labs, and the half-life doesn't always mean that your levels will cut in half. Sometimes it means it cuts even lower. So all a half-life means is that the amount of milligrams of the drug, in this case testosterone, has decreased in half. That doesn't always relate to the amount of testosterone you actually have in your bloodstream. Brain is farting so hard now. It's like the pharmacodynamics. So in my example, I took a week off of my testosterone replacement before I started using the cream, and my total T was 830, and then 7 days later it was 337. So one half-life roughly away was more than half of, it decreased by more than half. My total testosterone decreased by more than half. So you might find that your total testosterone throughout the day on cream, if you're applying it in the morning and applying it in the evening, it might be 800 all day long, but in the morning you drop down to 300. So you're going to have that decrease of protein synthesis overnight. You're not going to have that sustained level like you would with injection. So that's one downside of the short half-life. But again, the pro is that you're going to make changes rapidly, which is a huge pro, especially if you have side effects and you need to get it down fast. You're having high estrogenic side effects that are really bad, like super high anxiety. You can lower the dosage really quickly, and it takes effect really quickly. I think that's pretty much it. I really don't want to miss anything, so I'm going to just briefly go over what we've discussed today over the past 30 minutes. So Toppy click container, 100 milligrams per milliliter. Every twist of the Toppy click is going to be 0.25 of a milliliter. So that means every click is 25 milligrams for the 100 milligrams per milliliter, and every click is 50 milligrams for the 200 milligrams per milliliter. Remember, when you get it, you take the lid off. There's not going to be this cream here, so you're going to do a few turns until it spits out some cream to prime it. You're going to wipe it off with a tissue, and then you're good to go. So the next morning, if you take 2 clicks, 1 click, 2 click, you take that off, apply it to your scrotum. Again, then there's those benefits and drawbacks from applying it to the scrotum of increased intention, increased focus, higher libido, redistribution of fat in the face and stomach from those virilizing side effects, increased facial hair, increased chest hair. But again, the hair loss in the prostate is a potential problem. And if you want to switch from that because it's too stimulating, or you don't like those ideas of the negative side effects, you can switch to applying it to your arms or your underarms. General starting dosages are 100 milligrams per milliliter or 200 milligrams per milliliter. 2 clicks in the morning and 2 clicks in the evening. I recommend starting in the 100 milligrams per milliliter. Follow your doctor's orders, of course. But I would start low and work your way up. And remember, you got to wait about 4 to 5 weeks before you grab labs to let your nuts shut down or let the testosterone cypionate clear if you switch from testosterone cypionate to cream. And if your doctor says, let's put you on cream and we'll wait 6 months, don't wait 6 months. Ask him if you can do it earlier and give him a reason why, exactly how I explained, because you don't want to be on the wrong dosage for that long. You can also get your own labs from ultalabtest.com if you live near a Quest Diagnostics Center, and that's what I do all the time. That's how I get my labs for lots of things for my neurologist and stuff because it's so convenient. My personal experience, I couldn't tolerate it, unfortunately. And that's not because I wouldn't have tolerated it. It's because I have autoimmune encephalitis and my brain is really touchy. So if I had given it more time, I may have been able to dial it in to a point that it would work. But it got to a point where it just wasn't working for me enough to keep going. And the reason why was because, number one, application to the scrotum was too stimulating. Number two, swings in testosterone, even within the physiologic range, is too stimulating to my brain. It feels like really uncomfortable stimulation to my brain. So those two things were way too stimulating to the point where I was almost having a panic attack. That wouldn't have been the case in the past. Like I said, I've done steroid cycles in the past, no problem. But that's just because my brain is super sensitive. So even swings, even when I switched back to injecting, and I was at like 200 nanograms per deciliter just a few days ago, and I did a small injection, my usual small injection, that increase in maybe 200 nanograms per deciliter was stimulating to my brain. So just swings in hormones was too stimulating for me. Lastly, sleep. I couldn't sleep even when I applied it in the morning. In the evening, I was so wound up, I had a really hard time sleeping that I actually had to take pretty heavy-duty sleeping medications to fall asleep. So those are the reasons why I discontinued testosterone cream. They are not valid reasons for the average individual. If you don't like the cream, you can switch to injections. It's something to try if you want to. There's no harm in doing it if you're already on injections. Again, it's going to shut you down just like injections do. So if you want to switch, give it a shot. Talk to your doctor and say, hey, I'd like to try the cream. That's what I did, and give it a shot. Then great. And if you love it, then great. You don't have to inject anymore, and you got the high DHT. You feel good. You feel horny. All that stuff. I think there's a high misconception that the cream doesn't work, when in reality, for a lot of people, it does work quite well. Okay. I really apologize if that was rambly. That was the best I could do, and I hope that was more information than you could find anywhere else on YouTube and Reddit, because I couldn't find this information anywhere and had to do a lot of digging to kind of find out the basics of cream, which is kind of weird. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Good luck on your journey. Don't be afraid to try the cream if you want to. It's got a lot of benefits, and I'll see you guys next time. I think the one thing I did want to touch on. This is why I said earlier, I think to wait to the very end, because I might forget about something, is don't apply it to your arm here, because they're going to draw blood from your arm. So if you apply your cream to your arm, you're going to have testosterone through the fucking roof on labs, because it's going to falsely elevate it, because you're going to have literally testosterone in your skin right here when they're drawing your blood. So don't apply it to your arms. Not to mention, if you're wearing a t-shirt, you're going to be hugging your kids, you're hugging your wife, you're going to have that transference of the cream to your kids and your wife and your girlfriend, and you don't want that. So when you apply it to your shoulders, you can put a t-shirt on and things like that. So under your arms, you got a t-shirt on or a shirt on, so you can avoid that problem. Again, this is why I said wait till the end. All right, 33 minutes. I think I captured everything you possibly talk about for basics of cream, and I hope you guys have good luck with it. Yeah, take care. Talk to you later. Bye.